Good morning on January the 14th, 2014, Tuesday morning. I want to read from the book of Genesis today, the last 8 verses of the first chapter, starting with verse 24, going through verse 31. This is the 6th day of creation. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth, each according to its kind." And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And then God said, "Let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And God says, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food." And it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the 6th day. You see there the 6th day of creation. A recent video was placed online, and it shows how small the earth is. It's like a little pinhead in comparison to the largest known star. At the end of this video it says, "You are not the center of the universe." However, we are the center of God's creative universe in the sense that we are the crown of creation. We see when we move into the 6th day, things that have breath of life are created. That includes alligators, snakes, bears, dogs. And then we have the crown of creation, humanity. Back on the 22nd of January 1973, the image of God came under attack by the highest court of this land, the Supreme Court of the United States of America, 1973. It would have been a few months shy of my 4th birthday. People are under the understanding, however, that babies were fairly safe in the womb before that date, and they were for the most part. But a lot of states allowed this action to happen. Our form of government, we are a republic, not a democracy. The United States is a republic. And under our form of government, our Confederate form of government, a state writes their own murder laws. And there's very few people that doubt aborting a child is murder. It's pretty clear. But in other states, different states, this murder was allowed at different points during the pregnancy. We can talk about the legality of Roe versus Wade all we want, but there's a few things to consider. Number one, and most foremost, fundamentally, if the states created the federal government to serve them, how come the federal government's courts make ultimate decisions between the two parties? They are created to serve, yet they usurp the power. And we have had a very centralized form of government for the past 150 years since the war between the states. Another problem here is the fact that the Supreme Court, well, first of all, courts only interpret law. They do not make law. So they can say, well, this is the law of this case, we see it this way. But no state is under obligation to follow that. Another thing is nullification. States do not have to follow laws that they feel are inappropriate. And again, it's not a law. It's not a law at all. Just like juries can nullify. If a jury decides, well, we know the person committed this crime, but we don't think it's a crime, they can acquit the person. And another thing, a more simple way of looking at it is, you could say, well, what if Congress just passed a law stating that every state must allow the killing of an unborn child in the first trimester, and on until the date of birth if a doctor says that the child, the mother, will be mentally warped or sick or whatever. What if they just pass that law? Well, they can't. Because in the very first article of the Constitution, it says all powers, legislative powers, herein granted. It's not even granted. So they have no business dealing with murder laws in the particular state. So if a state wants to protect the image of God by executing the doctor, however they want to do it, however they want to handle this, they can do that under our form of government. But all that aside, and that was a long tangent, I guess, on the legality of abortion, God's image is under attack when abortion is allowed like this. A lot of times a child can certainly prove to be an inconvenience, there's no doubt about that. And it can be difficult sometimes for the mother to provide for that child. But the fact is, that is a life created by God, a precious life. And God's image is under attack. No other animal was created that shares the image of God. And though that image has been marred with the fall, that image has not been completely broken. The man holds that image. The woman holds that image. We should protect life. We should do everything that we can to protect life. We can speak of the legal realm all that we want. Obviously, nobody who is a born-again Christian should in any way back a person for political office that believes every state in the Union should be forced to allow abortion under specific instances as dictated by a group of 7 men. 7 out of the 9 men made that decision. There's just no way in the world that a Christian, a born-again Christian, can sit back and vote for somebody that believes that. It's crazy. And that's the political side of it. But the theological side is, in God's Word, it's clear. We are created in God's image. When somebody goes into that womb and takes that child's life, they are attacking God's image. And this 6th day of creation is a wonderful, or the story of the 6th day of creation is a wonderful theological basis for sanctity of life. I'll even go a little further to mention that in Genesis chapter 9, after Noah got off of the big boat, after Noah got off the ark, we read here the words of God, and starting in verse 5, "Surely for your lifeblood I will demand a reckoning. From the hand of every beast I will require it, and from the hand of man. From the hand of every man's brother I will require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. For in the image of God he made man. And as for you, be fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth and multiply in it." We are to have children, to populate the earth, and we are made in the image of God. And God even allows the death penalty to actually show that taking life is wrong. I've seen that bumper sticker, "We take life to show that taking life is wrong." That's very theologically naive. But we should seriously consider that taking life is a serious thing. If a person has to take life in a wartime effort, they are not automatically acquitted before God just because, well, the government told me to do it, it's war. No. Life is much more important than that. And there could be times that you are asked to take a life. In a situation like that. You may have been drafted, which means you basically were put in a situation against your will. You essentially were enslaved in that sense. You were told by the government, you must fight this war. So we must take all of these things into account. Should I stand up and fight? Should I not fight? These are decisions that are not simply brushed aside by saying, I believe in just war theory or whatever. There's a lot of thought that's gone into these words over the years. Theologically, a lot of ink has been spilled. But the image of God is very important. Whenever you kill a person, whenever you take their life, it's a very important thing to consider. It's not something that you do lightly. Taking a life is a serious situation. Jesus even said that if you hate a person, you have murdered them in your heart. And we know how we can tend to be when we get really mad at somebody. What if no one was looking? What if we could get away with it? We almost wonder sometimes, what would we do? And I would hate to think any of us would take someone's life. But if you hate somebody in your heart, you have murdered them, Jesus said. So as we reflect on January the 22nd, 1973, almost 41 years ago now, and consider just how terrible that event was, we can do a lot in our own lives by promoting life. If you are a father, take care of that child. That child was given to you by God. That child is not the government's responsibility. The government should not be picking up the bill. You are the father. You are the mother. Every child you have is your responsibility, not the community's responsibility, not the greater family, not the church. These are people that can step up and help. And God will ask them to step up and help. All of these organizations except for the government, which has no place whatsoever in taking care of your children. None. The government is not instituted to educate your children, to give your children medicine, to feed your children. It is your responsibility. So if you have children, they are a wonderful blessing from God. They are on loan from God. Take care of that child. Love that child. Raise up that child in the fear and the admonition of the Lord, because that child is your responsibility, nobody else's responsibility. So if you've got children, you're having children, every one of those children belong to God, and you will be accountable for every one of those children. Nobody else will be accountable for them. So when I say these things, I'm not trying to leave an excuse for us to kill children just because the government is attempting to take care of them and cannot afford to do it. No. Every one of those children has got a right to life. They have a right to live and breathe. And one of the good things offered to us from libertarian theory is the non-aggression axiom. You do not have a right to aggress against the property or body of anybody else, and especially the body of an unborn baby child. You do not have that authority to take that child's life.